Spoken label. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com, although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish. I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house. Sunday evening, yes. A busy day today because I've been on the radio with my band. So it kind of makes sense to come home, do Spoken Label and chat to another band. Yeah. And we've got a great guy with me today. I've been chatting to him for 20 minutes already, and it's not even been recorded. So that kind of says what we've got coming tonight. Yeah. We've got a wonderful gentleman up from Middleton called, I've got this right, Toki Ward. I've got that right. Toki, right. See, yeah. Shit for brains already. I've got a wonderful Toki Ward with us today. A fantastic band as well, called Onion Mash. So, Toki, first of all, mate, tell us a bit about yourself, because I know you're not originally from the Middleton area, are you? You've just told me already. So, no. Tell us about where you come from and what led you to Middleton.
Oh, yeah. So, hi, I'm Toki, obviously. So, originally, I'm actually from Middlesbrough, but I spent a lot of time in the Midlands, due to my mum moving around a lot because of her job. Then eventually ended up in Corby because that's where my partner lived. And I ended up moving in first with her parents, and then we eventually moved out and got our own place. And we've been happily together since about 2006, 2007. During that time, so I would have been about 18, 19, I got given a guitar for Christmas. A cheap kind of knockoff Fender thing that, looking back, wasn't the greatest instrument, but it got me playing. I just ended up learning a bunch of songs, ended up in kind of bands, that kind of thing. Massively influenced by like Green Day, Blink-182, Metallica, Nirvana, that kind of thing. Anything where the guitar sounded good, really. And then kind of all spread out from there. It's where I really kind of started to fall in love with music. It's where that I really kind of started to find what was my own music, like the music that instead of just maybe my mum listened to or my family, and instead of it just being on in the background, it becoming a very active part of my life, with me wanting to learn as much as I could about it and wanting to sort of just, and then like a sort of almost bare income and time went into music. I eventually bought myself another guitar, a better amp, went to guitar lessons pretty much every week during my sorry, I'm just remembering, like, there was a time when I broke my foot and I went to my guitar lesson before I went to an A&E.
Ouch! That's dedication to the job, that, mate.
Yeah. Like that. So there was a certain amount of dedication there. There was definitely like a huge importance put on it, and I remember I was sat in the pub with my mum and my partner, and it was after a few months of lessons, and I thought I was getting somewhere with it. Like I suspected that I was getting somewhere with it. And I sort of said, you know what? I wouldn't mind doing this for a job. Like, I wouldn't mind doing this, as a thing. My mum's reaction was, I think, the reaction of every parent when their kid's an artist or, a musician or whatever, of, are you sure that's what you want to do, kind of thing. And yeah, I had to, for a long time, obviously, do the music thing alongside working crappy jobs. Like, what artist / musician hasn't got that story, But then I was kind of fortunate enough to go to BIM London, which is a music college in London. And yeah, like, got to study with some really, really cool guitar players, like some of the best band players that I know to this day. And then fortunately, during the last year of my degree, started doing a bit of teaching, actually found that I really enjoyed it and I was actually fairly good at it. I just had this natural kind of passion for wanting to pass on the stuff that I'd learned. And what I found was actually that a lot of the kids that want to learn guitar, they want to, and this isn't for any influence of mine, but they want to learn Green Day, Metallica, Guns N' Roses. It's like almost they naturally know what the guitar fits best into when it comes to, especially electric guitar. Acoustic guitar is obviously a lot different. I do play a bit of acoustic, but I'm mainly an electric guy. I still like the sound of like a loud amp turned up, all that good stuff, So yeah,
good man. Yeah, no, obviously because it's an audio podcast only today, people won't necessarily be able to see how many guitars you've got on your wall at the back of you there. So yeah, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, about 8. Well, I suspect there's quite a few there more.
There's looking around me now. There's a fair few. Yeah. How can I put it? They're an investment. Like this has been what, since I first started playing. The one just behind me there that I'm pointing out, that was my second ever one. I've had that one since about 2008. So, and they're definitely a part of me now, like it's, how can I describe it? Like, I've gone through a lot of guitars in my time and I've sold some and, kind of found different ones. And I know everyone says this, but I do feel like now I'm at a point where I'm fairly happy with what I've got. I don't see myself wanting, I'm not like I used to be when I used to be sat there with the guitar magazines looking over them, just dream. And now it's like, yeah, I'm at a point where I've got a fair few, but they're all doing the job they're supposed to. They've all got a certain role. But I've got between all my guitars, I've got like a bass guitar, some electric 6 strings, and I play a 7 and 8 string guitar as well for the real heavy kind of riffy stuff. So yeah, fair few, but I'm done. I promise, wifey.
Well, a wifey, if you're listening, I believe him. Right? I'm not sure. I know what my wife's like with all the books I've got. So yeah, I have it the same way. So I know exactly what you mean there and that, mate. So on the bits and pieces I've got equipment wise, God.
I've just said all of that, and then you can guarantee next time I'm down cash converters or car boot, that'll be when I see this. Like, there's a Gibson there for like a stupid price or something. And like, wow, it's only 500 quid when it should be $1,000.
Good luck trying to explain it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I've tried many times, and she doesn't get it. She loves the fact that I'm so passionate about it, and she definitely has picked up a few things because of me, but she doesn't get why I need, my 12th one. It's because it. And the thing is that I can't just say, it's because it looks and sounds cool.
No, you don't only carry so far. I was in a band, I've done a couple of bands over the years. I have one guitarist, didn't last us very long because we had problems with him through his extracurricular activities. Let's put it like that, okay? Yeah. And I'll tell you about that off mic. Where he used to go when he told his wife he was at rehearsals and he wasn't, right? So what he had, I'll never forget this. He had 15 guitars in his living room. He did.
Yeah.
That's why. But that's the story for another day.
It's a weird thing, right? Because I should technically only really need 2 or 3, but then like, and some of them I don't pick. I mean, my 8-string guitar I maybe pick up 2 or 3 times a year, but if I didn't have it, I'd be like, it would feel weird not having it. It's such a weird thing because I do play them, and I teach and all, and I play live and all this stuff. But like at that same time, sometimes I just like looking at them. So sometimes it's a great thing walking into this room and just having that moment every day of just that pause and being like, because it's taken me years to build all this up. I'm really fortunate in the sense that I've got a really decent studio set up, and I'm able to record and I'm able to play guitar, and thankfully because of headphones I can play at night whenever I want to. I feel that I'm in a really fortunate part of my life at the moment, in the sense that if I can come up with something, I can execute it. But it's taken a while to kind of get everything that I've got, and now I'm kind of like, and now actually that my disposable income actually goes less and less on music gear, more experiences actually going out and seeing the world, and actually going to nature parks and touching grass and going for walks, and because I've spent far too much of my time sat in a chair playing guitar. Like it's
I can relate to that. Definitely can relate to that one, mate. So I know exactly what you mean with that.
It can be a lonely existence. It can kind of have the way that I describe it is like, most guitar players aren't well adjusted, because how do you think we got so good at guitar? By not socializing with people or things like that. It's that thing of like, that's why I think a lot of guitar players, despite what the media will tell you, and despite especially like the view back in the 80s and the 90s and that stuff, most of us aren't wild childs. Most of us are just kind of quite happy being in a band and like play, and like and most of the guitar players I have met that are big egos, they're the ones that tend not to last very long. They tend to be the ones that actually burn out quicker, rather than just kind of being happy.
Yeah, I've heard the same. It's a common myth. I agree with you completely. Now, obviously, I'm thinking here, obviously, for you here now, obviously, there's a couple of things we want to go through here today, but people are wondering, your band is called Onion Mash. Now, I want to go through the history of Onion Mash, but before we do on to that, I want to talk about something else that was even more personal to me, is your talk. I know you're dyspraxic, and I want to, like, I'm dyspraxic as well. I know what I've gone through this. It's been some weird things to me when I'm writing my music myself over the years. So tell us about how this is. When did you find out you were dyspraxic first, next time?
Oh, I would have been about 7 or 8. I would have been.
You were early then, because would you believe it? I was 28 when I found out. So.
Oh God! Well, do you know what? I found out I was dyspraxic at 7 or 8, but actually, the breadth of what that meant, I didn't know till my early 20s. Actually, because my partner, when she found out I was dyspraxic, she actually did some reading up on it. She actually kind of, and then she told me, because when I first found out, I was only aware of how it could affect things like my balance, my rhythm, my hand-to-eye coordination, and the practical side of things, and that, okay, well and good, but it was never explained to me that sometimes my mood swings are to do with my dyspraxia, my change in mood, my sometimes, I mean, I don't thankfully have it as much as I used to, but like a short fuse sometimes is because, and I remember a lot of it was me constantly asking myself, why am I so angry? Why do I feel this way? Why am I wrong? Am I just weird? Am I this? Am I that? And then when I found out, it light bulb moment, it made sense to me, and I'm quite fortunate in the sense that a lot of the people that I'm close to now, the same way with any other neurodivergent people, we're all very understanding of each other. We all try and kind of support one another the best we can. And if I'm having a bad day, I'll just say to, because in my household, there's myself, my partner, and Peter, my friend / bassist. And if I'm having a shit day, I'll just tell them I'm not feeling people. I just want to be on my own. fine, cool, you do you, you know, and that's really important. I mean, the sense that, because I feel very fortunate in the sense that I at least found out about it so young, and that I got the support straight away, varying different levels of support depending on what I was doing. Thankfully, my uni BIM were absolutely fantastic. Like, they got me tested. They kind of, I got a free, I got kind of a few learning resources. I got extra lessons, that kind of thing. It was, I got offered extra allowances and exams, just things that to help me through. And with that, and especially with me being a musician, I know that with it affecting things like my hand-to-eye coordination and my rhythm especially, that those were challenges that I would, that I was going to face. But I just kept at it. I just kind of kept, because I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to play guitar in a band. I wanted to make a career from it. I wanted to kind of teach. I wanted to do all the things that I do now. And I wasn't going to let the fact that this label that I've had since I was a child get in my way. I wasn't for a single second. And I remember one specific time, because before I did the music thing, I was doing acting at college, drama, because before music, and I still am, I love movies. I love, the art form of acting. I love things like shot composition, all that kind of stuff. And then I think it was during my second year there, I had a conversation with one of the tutors, and she was like, "Oh, what are you?" I said, "I'm dyspraxic." She was like, and this is something that I had for years. She was like, "Oh, you sure you don't mean dyslexic?" It turned out I was dyslexic, but I was like, no, dyspraxia. And she looked it up, and then the week after, she came to me and she said, "Oh, that means you shouldn't be able to play an instrument." And I was just like, "Well, I'll fucking show you." That's
crap. That's crap straight away, don't you, mate? So I know that myself. So it's never stopped me. So
no, it's and the thing is, right? Like, I'll be honest with you. There's definitely been areas that I know I've struggled in more because of it. Absolutely, 110%. Like, I would be kidding myself if I didn't say that, right? But at the same time, it's that thing of like, the fact that like I'm able to just make music, even, is a miracle to me in some ways. It's nothing but hard work on my part and practice and grit, tons of grit. But like the way that I describe it is like anyone can do it. Anyone, I believe, can do it. Any, no matter what you are, no matter what you've been told you are, no matter who might put this label on you or that, or call you this or call you that, screw it. Doesn't matter. Just go out and do it. Just go out and just try it, because you don't know otherwise. And I would have forever regretted not trying. Even if I never got to where I am today, even if I wasn't able to kind of, thankfully, keep a roof over my head doing it, I would have still been happy. I would have still been content, because I gave it a go. I was able to go, okay, I tried it. It didn't work out. Cool. Let's move on to something else,
Yes, no, agreed.
And the other thing is, like, it's okay to kind of, so when you are found out to be dyslexic, dyspraxic, whatever neurodivergency the person may have, it's too easy, I think, to maybe lean into it too much. And that's one thing I've tried not to do. I've definitely made myself allowances because of it, but like, I've never kind of wanted to just throw my toys out the pram and just go, I can't do this. I will always say, well, I can't do it right now, but I might be able to eventually,
Yeah, I think when you're dyspraxic, and I always applies to me, it certainly applies to you, because I've been chatting to you, is it makes you more single-minded, I think. And it certainly made me, after I found out 28, I got it, made me an awful mate more stubborn. And it makes you fight for things more. You got, and that's what respect you straight away, mate, straight away. So I could tell that you're a fighter, so respect them.
It's. Do you know what you said? It does make you single-minded, and I think it does. And now that can be seen as quite a bad thing sometimes, but for the most part, it's almost been my superpower. You know, it does. It's
a superpower. It's like you find that. I know when I was at uni, I had to work twice as hard as everybody else to get the grades I did, and I did get the top grades. If I didn't have this dyspraxia, in fact, I'd have had to come away with a first degree. So you work harder, I think, is a better way of putting it, isn't it? So
yeah, and you know, I'm immensely proud of all the work I've put in and the things that I've gotten out of it. You know, and I completely relate with you there when you say you have to work twice as hard to not always get the top grades, but that meant when I did get a top, I mean, on one of my theory exams, I think it was my last one, I got like 97% or something stupid like that. So when I did get a bigger kind of, you know, grade, it was this overwhelming feeling of awesome, cool, I can do this, I've got this, I can continue doing this. And then like, yeah, it's just kind of saying to yourself, it's okay as long as you can work hard, as long as you can, you know, get stuck in, and as long as you're passionate about it. I think that was the other thing is like, had I not done music, I probably wouldn't have studied a degree at all, because I'm not sure there's anything that would have interested me enough, especially when I was younger, like compared to now. And then when I wanted to do music and when I wanted to just build on it, I was just like, well, tunnel vision, that kind of single-mindedness is what kept me through and what kept me wanting to pick up my guitar more and actually play and actually practice and actually record, and then, you know, kind of work with people at uni and then work with people after, you know. It's just all been that tunnel vision.
No, completely. Now, I think we need to really talk about your band now, unfortunately. I know we've gone a very roundabout way to get to this, haven't we, really? We're really talk about your single and your band today, Onion Mash. Now, obviously, first of all, then, why Onion Mash as a band name?
All right. Okay. So, few things behind it. So, my friend / bassist, who I mentioned before, he's from the Czech Republic, and English isn't his first language. Don't get me wrong. He can have a conversation better than I can. I mean, he can talk the hind legs off a donkey, this man. And we were around my place, and we were a few drinks in, and he's like, shall we break out Guitar Hero? And I was like, all right, yeah, fuck it, why not? Like, sure. Been years since I played it. We broke out Guitar Hero, and it asks you to put your band name in. And he goes, Onion Mash. I go, okay. He didn't know that onion mash was actually a dish that we have over here. Oh. He just literally picked the first two words that came to his head.
Oh, and, you know, brilliant.
And he jokingly said at the time,
brilliant,
if we ever have an actual band, we'll call it that. So then what happened was, between that time I was playing Guitar Hero to where we are now, I had some health complications in 2019, some quite life-altering stuff, and I quit music. Like I was done. I was literally done. I'd not picked up my guitar for months. Like literally was coasting along, just literally doing bugger all. And then every day, every time he came over, he'd be like, yo, can you teach me how to play bass? I really want to learn how to play bass. Teach me how to play bass. And I told him no for weeks. No. Until eventually I was like, all right then, if you want to learn how to play bass. And at the time I had a drum kit. And I said to him at the time that if I was on guitar at the time and he was on bass, I would have gotten frustrated because I would have wanted to push him further on than he could have actually realistically done in one afternoon session. So I ended up on drums. He ended up on my right-handed bass upside down because he's left-handed, doing it proper garage rock style, garage band style. And then we learned a couple of like Seven Nation Army, some really basic stuff, some really easy stuff to play to get so that you could get used to things like playing with a drummer, how to feel rhythm, how to just hold the instrument and find the notes, right? And then one day he comes in and he plays this riff on his bass. I go to him, what's that? And he shrugs and he looks a bit shy. And he goes, I came up with that. I was like, did you? And he was like, yeah. He was like, I think it's pretty cool. I was like, you're right, it is pretty cool. And then picked up my guitar and then we wrote our first song. Literally, the moment he showed me he could write, the moment he showed me that he could, you know, come up with things. And I tell you what, because, you know, I may have taught him the technicalities of playing, how to hold it, but his ear for a good melody, a good riff is just so natural.
That's what you want. That's what you want. Just pure talent based. So yeah, no, I get completely with it. So
and then what happened was we would sort of sit with each other, and I would just sit there on my guitar and I would just play, and he would tell me, put this note in there, try this here, do that, change this around, until eventually he heard what was in his head. And then we would write out the scratch guitar on Logic and we would put it to some drums that sound vaguely like the energy we want that part to have. And then he would go away and write the bass parts and then come back, and then we would have the bass and the guitar for the songs. And then it was just unbelievably, honestly, looking back, because as well, of this happened. So the band probably started really at the start of 2020 during the pandemic round then, because we bubbled with each other because none of us had family nearby. So we were like, well, screw it. We'll be each other's bubble. We'll meet up, because I couldn't teach. I couldn't play live anyway, even though rather ironically I was getting back into music. I couldn't do anything with it because of the pandemic. So we just wrote songs. We just literally spent about 6 months to a year meeting up week after week after week. Couple of drinks, you know, just sat across from each other. And what this really helped, and I would say this to anyone listening, is like, learn to write with other people. If you learn to write with another person really well and you bounce off of them, you actually get songs finished. You actually get work done, because you don't want to let that other person down.
Yeah, I'm going for that. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean that in a minute myself. So yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I've got loads of ideas sat on my laptop that, because no one's forced me to finish them, I'm not finished them. They're just sat there, and they'll normally be like, I normally like, and like normally if I'm writing a riff, I can come up with something that's meant to go after it, because I can almost hear it. I almost can kind of feel where that next bit's supposed to go. But then I need a third and a fourth bit, and that never happens. So then it just sits there, and I that's why I like being in a band, is because it actually forces me to bring this stuff out and to get it done. And for us, we're working on this one song at the moment, and we've been trying to find a bridge for it for months, but we're almost done with it now, I hope, because our singer, Rach, she's been pushing for this song to be finished, and we've gone, okay, let's finish it for her, you know?
Brilliant. No, good stuff, man. Now, obviously, like, tell us about the I know there's people wondering, there has been a few lineup changes, but tell us about how the other two members of the band came to join you two then.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. So when we first started in Corby, it was myself and Peter and a friend of ours who's massively talented. Carl, shout out to you, mate, if you're listening. Fucking amazing musician, one of the nicest guys that I know as well. Honestly, love the guy. And he came in, he helped us with lyrics, because that was something either myself or Peter were hugely confident in. We're getting there now a bit more with it, but it's still a bit shaky. And the band was us three playing to a drum backing track, because the town is so small that there wasn't a lot of drummers going around. And then through a couple of things, Carl unfortunately didn't work out with us. So we then got a bit annoyed, because we were trying our best in the small town to make this band work, to make what we wanted to do a reality. But the fact is, and I hate, because in my heart of hearts, I think Corby's a great town. It has some of the best people that I've ever met in my life that live there. Some really close friends, some people that, you know, like we have been through ups, downs, and everything in between together, and dealt with it well because of the support network we've had for each other. But it isn't the place for musicians, unfortunately. So then when Carl didn't work out, me and Peter had a conversation and we were like, let's just move. Let's just move somewhere where we know we can get musicians, where we know there's a scene, where we know we can actually do this, where we can, you know, have opportunities. We can go and play live. We can rub shoulders with people. We can go out to pubs and clubs and gigs and talk to other bands, and, you know. And we decided, when we put a few Google searches in, we eventually settled on Manchester/Middleton, you know, because we're about like a 30-40 minute bus ride out from Manchester, which isn't that much, really. And thankfully, because of technology, I'm able to do a gig where I can play, you know, go on public transport without needing a big amp anymore, which is fantastic. And then, so we got here, and God, so when we moved here, within about 3 to 4 days of us moving, our stuff was still in boxes, but we were going out to jam nights, me and Peter. We were going out together to try meet other musicians, to jam with people, to see who we could find, to see what scene there was, and to get to know people. And those and as well, because neither of us had a job at the time, and we thankfully had some money to live off for a little while, which meant we could just go out. We were going out over the course of that first month. We were going out maybe 3-4 nights a week, just to meet people, just to jam with people. And then through that, we found our first drummer and we found our first vocalist, neither of which, our drummer, because we touched upon this before we started recording, but this personalities thing, once again, wasn't the right personality for the band, had some issues going on himself that just didn't line up with what we wanted to do. And then our first vocalist, he had family in Hungary, which then eventually meant that he had to move back there. We now have our drummer, Lewis, who everyone agrees is phenomenal talent. I mean, really, like, this guy I don't want to say he can play anything because I don't want to put him on the spot too much, but he is phenomenal. He has to be one of, if not the best drummers I've ever worked with. Like, but more to the point, he's a solid guy as well. He's always been really honest and open about how much he can dedicate to the band, when he can dedicate, because he's studying degree. Oh, sorry, he's finished his degree now, but he was studying a degree, working part-time at a restaurant and in 3 bands. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. He's a workhorse, that man. He's absolute unit. Thankfully, things are a bit calmer now, but yeah, and like, because that's most drummers, they're in more than one band because no one can get one. You know, I heard a fantastic quote from a friend of mine. It's stereotypes exist for a reason. Yeah, when it comes to drummers, because no one wants a drum kit in the house, and, you know, no parent would willingly buy their child a drum kit.
Wow.
You know, yeah, and like, so we got him. Weirdly enough, actually, we played with him at a jam night a few months before he joined the band. So when it actually came to auditioning him, he said, "Okay, I'll come and audition." And I sort of thought in the back of my head, "Well, you're already in the band. It's just if you turn up, you know."
Yeah.
And when he turned up, and then with Rach, our vocalist, she was formerly in a band called Aurora Project, and they're a lot more proggy than us. You know, they're kind of weird time signatures and folk instruments and that kind of thing. Actually, really decent band. And she's with us, and then the rest of the musicians of that band are kind of splintered off into another project. And she showed an interest, and she sent us a couple of videos of her singing with Aurora Project on YouTube, and I just remember being absolutely just blown away by her technique and then professional attitude, everything leading up to the audition to then the few weeks afterwards when we were finding our foot with her. And just as a quick aside, myself and Peter the bassist, we've been friends now for about 8 to 10 years roughly. We've lost count a long time ago. And all 4 of us, just really solid personalities. Honestly, like I trust, because Rach, since she helps with the social media side of things with the band, because that's not something that I really bother with too much. I'm not big on social media outside of work. Like, I'm not on it really. And then like Peter does like our logo, all our posters. He does the graphic designer things that way. I do any demos that we need. If there's a track we're working on and people need a backing track producing, I do that. So, you know, we're quite fortunate in the sense that we're all pretty decent musicians, but on top of that, we all have skills that we bring to the band that are outside of us being able to play our instrument, which is what you need nowadays. I mean, it's this thing of like, yeah, okay, if you play your instrument well, great, good, but that's the bare minimum now. It's literally, it's crazy to me how much I do with my job that has nothing to do with playing guitar. Like literally nothing.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And since then we've been very fortunate in the sense that, like, because we now have the right 4 personalities in the band, and we can be very honest with each other. We can be very kind of open with one another. We can tell each other if we can commit to something, if we can't commit to something, and if no one could commit to something, it's no big sweat. You know, we're just honest with each other. And
best way, mate. Yeah, agreed. So
yeah, and we're all at that age now because we're all in our 30s in the band. We don't have time for personalities and egos and people acting like teenagers, and we take it, even though we're called Onion Mash, we take it seriously. Of course we do. We have things like we have a band account, where all the finances going in and out of. We all chip in the same amount of money if something needs paid for. We recently bought a run of t-shirts which we all needed to pay in for. And that, it's not until we break even on those that we see any profit from it. But we all know that going in, and that's, super important, because it means that then I'm not saying to someone, you have to play this gig, you have to pay in for this. No, it's like, well, if we want the band to move forward, we have to consider what steps come next. We have to kind of communicate with each other. And, as I said, it's a good form of communication we have on the most part, thankfully.
Yeah, I think I always believe in a good band. So you're like a family to yourself, basically. And like if you got that sort of trust, you've already clearly got that. The world's your oyster, basically. So that's you keep doing it as long as the 4 of you want to do it, really. So excellent stuff, mate. Now, obviously, in a very roundabout way, we've got there eventually. I'm going to talk to you about your single, Killdozer #1. Now, is this your debut single, first of all?
Yes, it is. So, right. So, with the Killdozer was this. So, we have a set now of what was 6 songs and have recently become 7. And all 7 of these songs were worked on over lockdown. These songs, and as I mentioned earlier, they were sort of 3 or 4 years old at this point. And Killdozer, the reason why we wanted to release it first was because we believe that it's the song that sounds the most like the band, that like when we envisioned where the band's going to go and what we want to sound like, because it's got like the softer parts and it's got the heavier parts, and it opens up in places, it really sounded like what we kind of envisioned for the band to be. It's based on a story in America where a guy, he had a business, and it was like an auto repair business, and through some really bad planning permission from the government involving like them wanting to build a road, he lost things like he lost his water mains, he lost business because of it, and he was trying to plead again and again and again to the council through the official channels. You guys are affecting my way of living. You are affecting my business. Can you please reconsider this, that, and the other? And they just didn't listen to him. So then what he did was he then got a bulldozer, covered it in steel and concrete, and went on a rampage around the town. Now, what's important about this story is that he didn't end up hurting a single person, because he purposely targeted businesses that he knew were empty that day. Like he purposely, he didn't want to hurt anyone individually. He wanted to hurt the town that had screwed him over. And it's definitely a reflection of kind of when you go through the official channels so much, and when you sort of have nothing left. And people at the time said that the guy was very reasonable guy, you know, very calm guy, very normal bloke. But then he snapped because he'd had enough. And it's that thing of kind of like, it really shows you what can happen if people aren't listened to. If people aren't like, if someone's crying out at you, or someone's trying to go through these official channels and they're trying to sort of, you know, reason with, in his case, the local government, it then means that it can only go so far until you're backed into a corner, and eventually you do something about it. And I'm not saying, we're not saying necessarily what he did should be copied. We're not saying, it wasn't even necessarily the right thing to do. But for me, it's just a reflection of what can happen if you're pushed to the brink and then eventually just snap. I like what can kind of, the consequences of that. And I think that's the thing to take away. And, to actually have it out there and to listen back to it for the first time. And, I still do put it on every now and then. It's an incredible feeling. I mean, we were really fortunate enough with Andy, the guy we worked with at Through the Roof Studios. He really, because the whole song we did in one session over the course of about 4 or 5 hours. And because of him pushing us and because of his kind of pushing us forward, it then meant that we were able to realize it fairly quickly. And as I said, for me, it is what my band sounds like. It's a really good representation of where I think we can go as well. Where I think, because only now with Lewis and Rach, because the first job was with the 6 songs that we had before, was making sure that we can play those as a unit. Yeah. And now over the course of sort of, because we had to have a break last summer, because of some personal issues with a couple of members I'm obviously not going to get into. So it's only really now that we're getting to a point where we're writing songs outside of all the ones that we had originally. And we're definitely sort of starting to really find our sound now, and it's definitely leaning more into Killdozer.
Brilliant. Now, what we're going to do now, everybody, is we're actually going to play the song now with you. Okay, let you hear the debut single, and we will back in 2 shakes of the light to talk further. Spoken Label.